Perhaps I may gain more knowledge from the folly of this madman than I shall from the teaching of the most wise. So says Van Helsing of Dracula in Bram Stoker's novel, Dracula. What can we learn about theory of knowledge from the novel, Dracula? Welcome to ToK Today, the timeless tale of Dracula, first told in Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, serves as a valuable framework to interpret and understand ToK across various areas of knowledge. Let's take a closer look. In AoK Natural Sciences, Dracula epitomizes how the evolution of scientific knowledge can evoke a fear of the unknown. When Dr. Van Helsing, a man of science, confronts the supernatural, it challenges the limits of his rationality and scientific understanding. There are mysteries which men may only guess at, which age by age they may solve only in part. Through this, we see an argument that fear emerges not from ignorance, but from pushing the boundaries of knowledge. It's an assertion that the natural sciences, in their quest for rationality, might invoke fears about retaining our humanity. It positions reason in tension with compassion, kindness, and altruism. And this tension's wrestled with and in some ways resolved in Richard Dawkins' amazing book, The Selfish Gene. Note to self, make a video about the selfish gene soon. There are many other themes from the natural sciences arising from Dracula, the first being questioning the omnipotence of the scientific method. The scientists in the novel, such as Van Helsing, Dr. Stewart, and so on, are trying to explain vampires scientifically. I mean, will science eventually be able to explain everything? Yes? This is the comforting belief of our scientific age. Given sufficient time, energy, and resources, we'll be able to solve every challenge we face with scientific knowledge. But what if that's not true? What if there are challenges that science will not be able to solve? That's our worst nightmare, and that's what Dracula's all about. There are many other fascinating scientific links between Dracula and AoK, the natural sciences. To briefly touch on some of these. In the 19th century, some scientists believed that the physical features of the body, such as the shape of the nose, the mouth, etc., caused personality characteristics. This is called physiognomy or physiognomy. And Bram Stoker was using this belief to design and describe Dracula. His physical appearance was supposedly linked to his evil nature. In modern science, we might look in parallels at the concept of phenotype to further explore the reliability of theories of causation. Now, we see explorations of other scientific or pseudo-scientific knowledge, such as hypnotism and sleepwalking in Dracula. From a ToK point of view, we're asking what place these early scientific theories have in a quickly modernizing scientific model based on inductive hypothetical experimentation. And then bang! Right there, in the centre of the novel, we have the clearest and most relevant link between AoK Natural Sciences and Dracula. Vampirism is essentially a disease that you can catch from being bitten by an infected, undead person. Do you see the connection? When Bram Stoker wrote the book, scientists were just beginning to discover viruses and quickly developing knowledge of infectious diseases, contagion, vaccination. So the links with modern day science are pretty obvious. However, from a ToK point of view, we're interested in how pre-existing knowledge is integrated into newly emerging scientific knowledge, and vice versa. We're interested in the caution, maybe skepticism, maybe fear with which new knowledge is greeted. We're interested in the mutually inclusive relationship between the technology of knowledge production and the new knowledge produced. There's so much that we can learn from Dracula for AoK Natural Sciences. Maybe we'll need to come and dig deeper and deeper in a future video. But this video is now moving on to AoK, the Human Sciences. So when it comes to the human sciences, Dracula highlights how the disciplines of the human sciences are largely based on a rational model of the human, a rational model of people. In economics, geography, and business, models of human behaviours are largely assumed to be that which is deemed rational by empirical positivists at the beginning of the 19th century. Psychology and anthropology are slightly different in this respect, and we'll come back to them later on. Stoker wrote Dracula at a time when the rational empirical positivism of both natural and human sciences was sweeping away old forms of knowledge production, and these new forms of knowledge production gave rise to great institutions such as Imperial College London and the London School of Economics. And in Paris, Sciences Po and École Polytechnique. Now, these institutions were producing a new expert class who were challenging the accepted knowledge frameworks of the time. The disruptive idea that they were proposing was that people are essentially rational and that they can be explained using models based on logic and reasoning. And these models are scientific models. Indeed, the full name of the London School of Economics is actually the London School of Economics and Political Science. Dracula proposes the question, what if people are not rational? What if we can't explain them using rational models? Now, I said that psychology and anthropology are slightly different to the other human science disciplines. Psychology starts from the premise that if people do not seem rational, we can still explain them using scientific rational models. And at the time that Stoker was writing Dracula in Scotland, Dr. Freud in Austria was writing about neuroses. He was creating a new science which aimed to understand people's irrational thoughts and behaviours. And Dracula is an artistic visualisation of the neuroses, obsessions, phobias and fears that Dr. Freud was identifying, naming and classifying. The labelling, identification, classification and organisation of knowledge is a big thing in ToK. And we can ask whether without early psychology we would have ever heard about Dracula. In many ways, Dracula is AoK the arts version of the knowledge that Freud was creating in AoK the human sciences. Now, anthropology stands in a special place in AoK the human sciences because it has a central focus on ethnomethodology. Now, this is a process of knowledge production that proposes that to understand people, you have to live their lives as closely as possible. This is the human as research tool, and in many ways it's unique in AoK the human sciences. Rather than separate subject, object and researcher, it blends their perspectives, championing validity over reliability, unlike the other human sciences that champion reliability over validity. Now, arguably, this central premise of ethnomethodology is mirrored in Dracula. You can only understand vampires by becoming one. You can only evaluate knowledge from the inside rather than from the outside. So, Dracula in many ways mirrors the concerns arising from the rapid evolution of the human sciences in the late 19th century. They represent a disruption of the pre-existing knowledge verse. And let's end this section on the human sciences with another quote from the novel. So, upon realising that he was Dracula's prisoner, Harker considers the emergence of new knowledge and technologies, and he says, "It is 19th century and it is up to date with a vengeance, and yet, unless my senses deceive me, the old centuries had and have powers of their own, which mere modernity cannot kill." In many ways, this quote suggests that regardless of the rational advance of scientific knowledge, our primal instincts persist. Dracula embodies this duality. He's both a sophisticated count and a primal beast. Let's move on to AoK the Arts. In AoK the Arts, Dracula embodies the connotative and denotative structure of the story arc. Each act of the narrative carries both the surface level meaning as well as deeper, more symbolic interpretations. As Harker says on his first night in Dracula's castle, "I am all in a sea of wonders. I doubt, I fear, I think strange things, which I dare not confess to my own soul." Harker struggles with the tensions between reason and emotion as forms of knowledge. Now, Dracula's journey can be seen as a narrative of transformation and struggling between light and darkness, realizing not just a physical journey, but also a profound emotional and moral journey. Beyond the surface level fright of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel also encapsulates the dramatic transformations of the late 19th century. Industrialization, mechanization, medicalization, to name but a few things that were rapidly changing people's lives. The novel Dracula realizes these disruptive changes in terms of artistic knowledge. Stoker's depiction of Mina Harker, an educated woman, reflects the changing norms and gender roles of that era. Stoker defies the Victorian ideal of a passive woman, positioning Mina as a pivotal character who uses her intelligence to outwit Dracula. As such, the novel demonstrates the potential for artistic knowledge to both describe an empirical reality and to imagine if that reality were changed, or how that reality might evolve. This is one of the key strengths of artistic knowledge relative to other forms of knowledge. This novel also challenges the era's religious morality. Stoker subverts the traditional Christian symbols like the crucifix by making them ineffective against the count, and this provokes a reinterpretation of the sacred, hinting at a reform of religious morality. Again, this demonstrates the capacity for artistic knowledge to represent ideas that may be culturally taboo if presented as other forms of knowledge or arising from other forms of knowledge. Furthermore, the novel Dracula contributed to the evolution of the novel structure. It employs an epistolary format incorporating letters, diary entries, and newspaper articles, offering different perspectives and layering the narrative. This not only reflected the impact of technological advancements, like the typewriter, but it also altered the landscape of storytelling. As such, the novel Dracula, as artistic knowledge, is able to represent multiple knowers' perspectives, which allows for the development of plural interpretations. This is a laminated form of knowledge in a way which is far more difficult to develop from other forms of knowledge. Ultimately, Stoker's Dracula serves as a mirror, reflecting and challenging the societal shifts of its time, illustrating how artistic knowledge continually evolves in a response to a changing world. So let's bring this video to a conclusion. What can Dracula teach us about the theory of knowledge? In summary, Dracula demonstrates, firstly, that artistic knowledge can build on and communicate knowledge from other areas of knowledge. Secondly, that knowledge development in one area of knowledge has consequences for other areas of knowledge. And more importantly, that knowledge development is rarely confined to just one area of knowledge. And finally, that a proactive society that's producing new knowledge can also be reactive to both the new knowledge and the new perspectives arising from that knowledge. So Dracula's a story that takes us on a journey through AoK, the natural sciences, AoK, the human sciences, and AoK, the arts, and it opens up ToK debates that continue to resonate today. If you're working on your ToK exhibition and you would like more help with choosing a prompt or understanding that prompt, or understanding the prompt that you've chosen, or choosing objects, you can pick up any of ToK Today's ebooks on understanding the ToK exhibition prompts. We have ebooks explaining individual prompts, a range of prompts, or even all of the prompts. Link in the video description. You can also find out about our other resources which are there to support you writing your ToK essay, or to get coaching, or to get written feedback. You can find out all of this at toktoday.com. I hope that I've inspired you and intrigued you with this exploration of the novel Dracula. If I have, then a like or a subscribe would be very much appreciated. Thank you for watching, my friends, and stay ToKtastic.